I'm Derek. I'm going to walk you through building your own monogram today. Now, a monogram is the combination of at least two letter forms. Typically, you use your initials. And really, a monogram is very similar to a logotype or a wordmark. And so I'm going to walk you through the processes of not only ideating and developing your own monogram, but how do you refine that and develop it into artwork that's ready to be moved into the digital realm. So hey, come along with me. Let's get started.
Hello. So, guys, thanks for joining me. I'm going to walk you through. How to make a logo design, or how to make like a monogram. And I'm going to use my initials today, which are the initials D as in Derek and B as in Black for my first and last name. And I'm going to walk you through how to create this exercise. You guys can follow along with me. Please don't do my initials. Do your own initials. And you can do 2, you can do 3, you can do 4. It's completely up to you. Primarily, you need at least some type of pencil, and it doesn't have to be a mechanical pencil. Ideally, you would have an eraser and at least one marker. I've got a whole set of markers in here. I've also got some whiteout to touch up in case if I mess up at all. The idea of this is that it's a process, and so it shouldn't be perfect. It should be this, we're kind of capturing the idea. So let's get started today, and the first thing I'm going to do is I like to draw on this paper here, and it's mainly because it's kind of trashy. It typically comes on a roll like this, but you can use just regular computer paper as well. If you are drawing on computer paper and you're using marker, make sure you have a couple of extra sheets to stack underneath so you don't bleed upon your surface. That's one of the reasons why I like this material, is that it doesn't bleed through, and so I can draw with it just directly. And the first thing we're going to do is just kind of sketch out some ideas, and we always start with kind of like the most basic idea first when we're drawing. And so I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to put a D, and then I'm going to just put a B in here, just like this and that. And then we want to kind of start to play with this. I'll start with a B here, and I'm not worrying about like the type of letters. I'm just like trying to play with some different shapes. And so in here I'm going to come around and I'm going to make a D around that. So that's, one method. I could simply come in here and I could put like a D. And again, we're not worrying, we're just sketching out ideas. And so this should be kind of fast. And let's come through here with this. We'll kind of, overlap these guys. Maybe we'll come over here and we will say, okay, well, I'm going to take a D here. And then I'm going to like let the letter forms themselves kind of be like a D3, but kind of block those two. Let's try something a little bit more interesting here. So let's come through here. Let's do this. It kind of has like a DB in this, and then we can do like a lowercase d and an uppercase B. We can of course do like a D there. That's backwards, a B here. And we're just going to play around with some ideas, okay? And so let's kind of take this one here and let's try to like create another derivative. So in here, let's do this. Let's start here. Let's go like this. Let's go like this. And then let's surround that like that. And so again, I'm just kind of playing with ideas here and generating a bunch of different solutions. Let's see here. We have a B. And again, we're not trying to make anything beautiful. We're just sketching out ideas, okay? Now let's do like a narrow D. And again, it doesn't have to be that much. And then let's kind of make a B that sits out here. And we're just playing with hierarchy inside this. And so, what happens if we do it the opposite, and that we have a D here, and then we put a long narrow B here, like that. And so just playing around with the hierarchy. Let me see here. I kind of like this idea with a B inside here, and then let's just have that. And so it's a little bit kind of like what we were playing with in here, a little bit different. I'm going to maybe italicize this like that. There's another DB. And so again, just be playing around in here and kind of creating a bunch of derivatives. I'm going to come in here And I want to play kind of with these two ideas a little bit longer in here. So I'm gonna like make like kind of a big D, and I'm gonna make it kind of fat and round like this. We're gonna actually come in here like this, and I'm just sketching out ideas. And so in here, let's very quickly fill this in. Okay. Again, we're not trying to go for perfection here. We're just kind of playing with some ideas. And I'm going to put a narrower B in here, and I'm going to say I'm going to want the split to kind of come in here. So let's do again. And notice that we're not trying to do anything perfect in here. We're just kind of playing. And this is the key at this stage. And so in here, I might say, well, actually, I want to kind of create, you know, this type of thing, and I kind of like this, so let's play with this, kind of make a little bit older school. And so continue to explore and play. I'm going to play with this a little bit more. Let me see here. So let's see here. I'm going to start with a big square D. And then I want it just to come narrow in here. Just like that. I have another initial. I'm going to throw an A in here. Like that. And you can just sit here and play and just create. So just do that. Play and create several of these. Kind of what can you do? You know, just knock out as many. Try to knock out like 10 or 15 of these, and then we can kind of come back and refine this. And I'm kind of liking this guy here, and so I'm going to put a little star on that. And I'm kind of liking the idea of these types of constructions. I might try a wider B. So I did this one here, which is kind of interesting. Now what happens if I do this one? I'm just going to do it a little bit bigger. So I start with my B. I'm going to add some weight in here. And I'll show you how to like refine this a little bit later. And so I'm going to come in here. I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to kind of mimic that. Again, notice how I'm scribbling. This is really key at the sketching phases, is that you're not getting into this trying to make it perfect. You're just sketching out ideas. So there's that B. Now this D, I can't really fit in here because I've drawn it too narrow, or I could actually make it really thin, but I don't like that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to explore this a little bit further. And this one I'm going to plug this in here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that my D is roughly the same thickness. So I'm going to kind of put this guy right in here. And I'm going to assume that I want a little bit more space than that, and I'm going to put this right here. And these are just kind of guides, and I'm going to put this same negative space here. But of course my B will connect right here. And so what I'm going to do, that just is kind of giving me a guidance in doing this. So I'm going to come over here. And so I'm just sketching down here, but notice how I'm kind of planning the sizes of these. Okay, and I'm going to, don't be afraid to turn it. And I'm going to actually make this kind of a same thickness all the way through here. And then we'll kind of come back in here, make these guys. Again, I'm not trying to make this perfect. We're just sketching out ideas. And so now we're going to carry this up to here, carry this down to there. And the key of this is just to explore and have fun. I want this same space in here, so I'm going to kind of bring that around. Bring that around here. Again, notice how I'm not spending much time at all in getting this just right. It's not the purpose of this exercise. We're just ideating. And it's a key to understand that in ideation, we're just playing with different ideas. And so we have a couple of these explorations here, and just continue to do this. Maybe do this for the next 5 minutes and just explore with your initials. So the next step, once you've done some sketches in here, is we're going to actually come in here and we're going to draw kind of a guide. Now, we're going to pick a couple. I kind of like these two types of things here, and so we're gonna kind of play with maybe developing one of these two. I like this one better, but let's have some fun, and we're gonna actually develop this one. So, but before we do, I need to show you actually how to create a lettering guide. And to do this, you're gonna need some type of straight edge. I forgot my ruler at school, and so I'm just gonna use this simple thing. What I'm gonna do is here, so I'm just gonna draw a line in here. I'm just gonna draw let's think about maybe 10 centimeters right in there. And then I'm going to draw one about twice that long going down in here as well. And so all I'm going to do is, since that one's almost parallel, I'm going to come in here and just kind of use my guide in here. I'm going to draw about one that's a little bit, 20 centimeters long, right in there. Okay, and then we're just going to go ahead and draw a box. So go ahead and do that. Now after we've got our box in here, we're going to draw actually some guidelines. We're going to draw some vertical guidelines in here. So we're going to draw a line right down here. And so go ahead and just sketch that line right down here. And we're going to do the same thing right on this other side, just providing about the same thickness. And these are going to be kind of our stems as we go through here. And we draw these inside that. And then I want you to go ahead and do the same, about the same thickness on both the top and the bottom. And these will be, if you kind of notice, I'm kind of using my paper as like a guide here to create my things. So just go ahead and do that. And then go ahead and flip it around. Do the same here, like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find the middle of that. And the easiest way to find the middle is to literally just use your light and align up these edges. Oh, that actually got those pretty good as far as the guessing of these two matching each other. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw another horizontal guide in here. And I'm doing what I'm doing is I'm kind of measuring roughly about the thickness of that. And I'm going to put that on each side. So one there, and then one here as well. And that will just help us act actually as kind of a guideline as we start to draw our letters. So this is a lettering guide. We're now going to create some. So now that we've got these guides in here, what I'm going to also do is I'm going to draw some diagonal guides on this surface. So I've got my little straight edge here. And I'm just using this to create some guides. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. So in case if I want some diagonal letter forms, I'm going to create a little bit of diagonality just right here and going through like that. And if you don't like these little mess ups in here, you can just come back in here, just erase that bit just like that. Got that. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do the same. And notice I'm kind of moving my paper to make it a little bit easier for me. Don't be afraid, to leverage that. And so I can actually do this. I can actually come through here and get a pretty accurate position right in there. I'm going to tuck that right there. Now these two aren't exactly right. Just kind of do that. And then go back, do the other side as well. Now that I have this, I'm going to just use this. I just took this piece of paper that I'm using, and I'm going to use this actually as a guide to simply trace around this. And you'll see that this... Alright, so now this is, a guide, and this allows us to make like a D if we want, a B. So I need to create a round form. Now you can go back and you can use that, or you can just use this and use your hand and just come through and do that. Just like that. Now, this is obviously, you get a cleaner line if you trace it, but it's okay. And so do the same thing. I'm just going to kind of guide. And if you notice, I'm going to use my hand actually as a pivot right there. So I'm just going to come in here. Just like that. They don't have to be perfect. Just get them as best as you can. Now I can see I can make a D or a B. Now you can see here, it's not perfect, and that's perfectly fine. But it gives me a guideline. Now I'm going to show you guys really carefully how you can use this to generate and create letter forms. And so I'm going to put some paper down because I'm no longer using this paper, just using regular paper. And I'm going to use a really quick marker. I'm just going to show you really quickly how you can use this to get letter forms and create designs. And so I move my paper around a lot, and so in this situation I'm going to actually create a small B. But before I do that, I'm going to actually very quickly come in here, and I'm just going to draw my kind of outlines for my stem. Now again, notice how quick and how sketchy I'm doing these, okay? So I have this form in here, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to move this movement over here. And I prefer to kind of move my paper as I do it. And so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to just move this paper. And notice how I'm kind of, again, using that pivot of my hand. And so in this, I'm going to have this kind of like right there. I'm going to have this form kind of like that. I'm going to have this piece come right in here. So I'm going to pivot it. And kind of just creating that form, just like that. Now I'm going to kind of follow this. I'm going to not necessarily follow this because my letter need to have my letter kind of bend a little bit before we get in this. It looks like I need to add a little bit more in there. Now quickly I'm going to come in and just very rapidly fill in this letter form. Now if you don't have markers, it's going to take you a little bit longer. But that's okay, take your time. We're not looking for like beautiful marker technique, we're just looking for it being filled in. And so I'm going to go through here and I'm going to finish the rest of this B. So you can see kind of really quickly how I was able to go through and generate this B. And so this shows you kind of how to use that lettering guide. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come back and look at our original kind of sketches and ideas and play around. And we're going to take one of these and we're going to build a lettering guide that's supportive of that. And so I'm going to pull out a fresh scrap piece of paper and I'm going to start sketching my lettering guide on this. So I'll get back to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of do something like this. And so I'm going to come in here, I'm going to put like a wide lettering guide and I'm going to put like a narrow lettering guide in here to show you. Alright, so now I've got my lettering guide in here. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab my straight edge. Actually no, we won't use our straight edge. So I'm going to kind of rough in here. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to start just roughing in my letter forms. And so I'm going to come in here and this one's going to be, I can erase all these other lines after I get this. Just put down some bold lines in here. Kind of very similar to what I did with the B that I showed you guys earlier. Down here I need to decide like how thick and how thin my letters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go kind of thick on this. And so I'm going to actually go much thicker than my original. And what I'm going to do is just kind of transfer this over. And so I'm just going to transfer it. It looks like it's right there. Now in here, I'm going to actually pivot this, and I'm going to determine like how thin I want this. And at this, I'm going to actually take this kind of thin. I'm going to have it kind of go this thin as I come in here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pivot it right down in here, just like this. And remember, we can erase all of this at any time. Okay, so come back in. Going to kind of follow that. Like that in there. So we have this, and I'm going to actually add a little bit more curve right there. A little bit more curve down there. Now, again, this is just sketching, right? Okay. Now I'm going to actually, eventually, I'm going to have this piece. I'm going to actually have these guys arc a little bit and then come down here. And so I'm going to kind of follow this. And like I said, we'll figure out and clean the rest of this stuff up later. So right now I'm just kind of playing around. I think I'm going to have these guys kind of arc right down here, and we'll then kind of have that tuck like that. And again, it's just about kind of playing and having this, and then I'm going to actually have this arc down like that as well, and then we're going to arc down. So we'll kind of create this, and while I'm doing this, I'm going to actually have this come up a little bit more as well, and this one kind of come up like that. Okay, so we got our D, and again, we're sketching. I'm going to actually take a clean piece of paper and lay over this once I kind of get my ideas. Now, next one is my B, and so I'm going to come in here, and I've got this laid down now. My B, I'm not going to go quite as thick, so I'm going to go the thick that I had this here. And I am going to, like again, I'm going to kind of have this sweep like that. And I'm going to keep it about the same thickness. Again, these guidelines are just that. They're just guidelines. So don't get caught up into thinking that they have to be like a perfect match. It's just trying to get the rough. Now notice that my pencil lines are really kind of rough. And so this one, I'm going to actually come down here. I'm going to actually have it come down. We'll do something like that. Means I can play with that. And this one I'm going to actually have and these guys I'm going to have come in like that. Okay? And so that now kind of sets up that. And then once I have this, what I'm going to do is very quickly, I'm just going to sketch in. And I'm just going to sketch in with my pencil. Just in here. I have to make that. Your hand will get it dirty. You can go wash it. I'm going to go wash mine here in a second. I just want to kind of get the thickness of this. Again, I'm not trying to be perfect whatsoever. I'm just sketching this idea in here. And what I'm doing this is I'm very quickly generating what what's called the figure-ground relationship is. And so I'm not worried about the quality as far as like, am my lines right? I'm just trying to look at the positive, negative. Now, if I see this, I create some issues kind of like right in here. So I'm going to grab my eraser, and it's getting a little bit too kind of clunky in here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make these a little bit more subtle. Just like that. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is, you can take like a clean piece of paper, and what I want you to do is just go through and kind of clean that up and transfer it. Now, just because I have this, I'm going to go ahead and use this just because it's easier, and you guys can see how I could use this to kind of refine this. Again, we're still at the sketch phases, and so I'm going to place this here. I can get rid of these scraps since I'm not using marker right now. At this point, what I want to do is just come in I feel like this bottom B needs to come out a little bit further to really capture this. I'm going to do that there. Just needs a little bit more right in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a similar thing to the D. On this, I'm going to choose to actually make this D almost like a more oval shape. So I'm going to kind of pull it in here. And I'll do the same thing here. This, I'm going to actually choose to make it a little bit thinner. As it comes back in here a little bit sooner. And I'm just going to take a look at that and kind of in there. Now I haven't finished these guys up, so let's kind of tweak those up here. And so I've got this one coming up. I've got this one coming up. I could flip this back over if I wanted to mimic this. And the easiest way to do that is to actually just come over here. You can like really just fold that in half and kind of see. Oh, okay. Well, I can actually kind of. You don't want it to be exactly that, but it's a quick way that you can kind of see. Okay, well, let's do this, and then we can come back in here. We can erase that, and then I can come in here, right in here. I'm going to take this thinner. Okay. Now the next trick, or the next step, is to just start filling this in. And so go ahead and at this time pull out your markers and just go ahead and start filling that in, okay? So I'm about a little less than a third of the way through. You can kind of just see the process that I'm going through. I'm just laying this over and just kind of cleaning up my lines, redefining those, and starting to shape that. And so by all means, just go ahead and continue. And so I'll just kind of come in here. Just continue shaping those guys. shaving that off. And I'm using 2 markers here. I'm just using this marker to fill in, and this marker to line. So keep doing that. And this is, what I turned out to be when I finished. Now, I chose to eliminate some things. You guys, this was that original sketch. And by all means, feel free to edit, add to, change. This is just a sketch. We had actually never finished a logo out just like this. At this stage, we'd actually scan this, we'd take it into our computer, and we'd clean it all about. But the idea of this exercise was just to let you go around and play and create some type of monogram for you. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward to welcome you onto the physical campus as well, but also please feel free to engage me virtually.